What are you doing voting for a political party that is working against your interests? You need money, and the Republican Party's economic philosophy is totally against giving you any money. If push comes to shove, some Republicans may vote for a one-time stimulus, and you know that a one-time $1,200 stimulus will not give you the help that you need. You have seen the Republican stance on giving money to the people of the United States, even though the money will stimulate the economy. Mitch McConnell and the Republicans don't want to give you money and stimulate the economy. When it comes to congressional legislation and money, Republicans would prefer to give money to multi-billion-dollar corporations instead of the poor and middle class, who will create jobs when they spend the money because of the increase in demand. Do you prefer money be given to multi-billion-dollar corporations who will engage in stock buybacks and other corrupt activities while you continue to struggle financially through no fault of your own? Or would you prefer money be given to you to help you and your family so you can spend the money into the economy yourself, which will create jobs through the increase in demand? Republicans in Georgia and throughout the United States, you may not have known this, but the Republican Party's economic philosophy is trickle-down economics, which favor the rich over the poor and middle class. That is why Mitch McConnell refused the Democrats' $3.4 trillion stimulus bill and came up with his own $500 billion stimulus bill, leaving out any stimulus money for the American people. Mitch McConnell is looking out for the interests of the rich over the interests of the poor and middle class. Don't fall for Republican lies, because they are not looking out for the best interests of poor and middle class people in the United States. If Mitch McConnell and the Republicans were looking out for the best interests of the poor and middle class, not only would they have agreed with the $3.4 trillion bill proposed by Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats, they would have insisted that the bill be higher than $3.4 trillion to address the needs of all Americans for as long as it takes. Mitch McConnell's proposal for $500 billion should show you that Republicans care nothing about the needs of poor and middle-class people who are struggling financially through no fault of their own. It's time to stop blindly following a political party that cares nothing about poor and middle-class people, as proven unequivocally by Mitch McConnell's $500 billion proposal. In my opinion, Abraham Lincoln would not be a Republican if he were living today, because the values of today's Republican Party concerning the least of these are not the values of the Republican Party in Lincoln's day. In my opinion, Frederick Douglass would not be a Republican if he were living today for the same reasons. Today's Republican Party is not the Republican Party of Abraham Lincoln and Frederick Douglass. And let me remind you that the Republican Party during the time of Abraham Lincoln had abolitionists as supporters. Today's Republican Party has white supremacists as supporters. This is a 360-degree change. A political party with white supremacists as supporters, along with a Republican president who gives shout-outs to white supremacists, should be a political party that United States citizens with values should not want to be a part of. The only people who should be remaining in today's Republican Party should be their white supremacist supporters. Everyone else should be either independents or Democrats, and these are the facts. If the Republican Party does not change back to the Republican Party of Abraham Lincoln and Frederick Douglass, it's going to eventually go the way of the Whig political party, which no longer exists. While the Republican Party is still in existence, it can change back to the Republican Party of Abraham Lincoln and Frederick Douglass. But will it move in this direction? Hopefully, but probably not. In conclusion, if you are a poor and middle-class Republican in Georgia and anywhere else in the United States, voting for Republicans will ensure that everything possible to benefit the rich financially will be on the table to the detriment of poor and middle-class people in the United States. But voting for Democrats will ensure that everything possible to benefit the poor and middle class financially will be on the table. And the rich will also benefit from trickle-up economics because they will make a profit. So everyone benefits from the bottom to the top of the ladder. So that you understand, Republican trickle-down economic policies benefit the rich and hurt the poor and middle class. Democrat trickle-up economic policies benefit the poor, middle class, and rich. For further study on trickle-down economics and trickle-up economics, listen to our broadcast on universal basic income and capitalism. Kelly Loeffler is a capitalist, as is Donald Trump. As I just stated, Republican economic philosophy is trickle-down economics, which benefits the rich to the detriment of the poor and middle class. Kelly Loeffler will support Mitch McConnell's desire to block stimulus money for the American people. And let me also state that the stimulus money should be $2,000 per month for the American people, and probably will be $2,000 per month when the Democrats win the 2 U.S. Senate seats in Georgia. One thing is for sure, Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue will support Mitch McConnell and the Republicans' weak proposal for $500 billion with no stimulus money for the American people. Remember, Republicans work for the benefit of corporations to the detriment of the poor and middle class people who elected them to office. If you are struggling financially, electing Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue to office is a vote for the corporations and a vote against the interests of everyone who is struggling financially in the United States. So if you want the stimulus money, whether you are a Democrat or a Republican, electing Jon Ossoff and Raphael Warnock is a vote for everyone who is struggling financially in the United States and will ensure that legislation containing stimulus money will be passed and signed into law by incoming President Joe Biden. For this to become a reality, Democrats must control the Senate. Economic stimulus money and much more is on the table. So make sure that you vote in the Georgia U.S. Senate runoff election.